Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here today. And recently, of course, I've been doing my Let's Review Doctor Who series where I've been talking about the Doctor Who seasons, having gone through 1 through 10 that has gone live since this recording, although I've actually recorded up through 13. And I forgot to rank Season 9, and I mentioned that I was going to do that. I think I mentioned that in the Season 10 video I was going to do that, and then forgot. Because that's just where my memory is. So I'm going to rank the Season 9 and Season 10 episodes from Classic Doctor Who, just to give you my current thoughts on them. Season 9 is tricky because I don't dislike any of the stories. I like all of them. I don't think they're slam dunks except Day of the Daleks. Day of the Daleks is a slam dunk masterpiece in my opinion. I love it. Especially the special edition. The others are all ranging from okay to good. Not even into the great range, but good. So it's really hard to rank this season when I have a lot of okay, good stories, one great story, but no bad story. I'd say at the bottom of the list, I'd probably have... This is really hard, actually. The Curse of Peladon, maybe, because I like The Curse of Peladon. Slightly better than Monster of Peladon. I love both. It's good. I like seeing David Troughton. It's a good four-parter. It knows it only needs to be a four-parter. I enjoy it. It doesn't blow me away or wow me, but it's a nicely done story. Next on the list, I'd probably have The Time Monster, which I do feel is a little underrated. I don't think it's a bad story. I think it's a tad long, maybe, at 6 parts. But I like the fact the last 2 episodes kind of have that almost Robert Holmes thing going where the story feels like a 4-parter and a 2-parter, with the first 4 parts taking place more at that one building, the last 2 parts taking place there in Atlantis. Although it does get a little trippy at the end with Kronos when it's the female head and they're in that other dimension. That's a little trippy right there. I like the performances. It's great to have another story with Delgado, even if the dream sequence at the beginning is a little weird. And the special effects of Kronos are not great, but I enjoy the story enough to where I'm willing to overlook a lot of it. That and the stuff with the Minotaur doesn't need to be there. I love his David Prowse, but it doesn't need to be there. And I love the King. I absolutely love the King of Atlantis. He's great. I was very upset when he died in the story. And of course, my hat's off to Ingrid Pitt and Ingrid Pitt's costume designer. They both deserve props. So I like The Time Monster. It's not essential Doctor Who, and it's not the season finale that the Daemons is, because the Daemons is just a heck of a season finale, whereas this one feels much less so, but it's still enjoyable. Next on the list is The Mutants, and I know that might be higher than some people would put it, but I've only watched The Mutants once, so I may be suffering from what I call first watch bias. Because sometimes when you're watching a Doctor Who story for the first time, especially Classic Who, where it's broken, where it's, each story is made up of multiple episodes, you kind of get into this bit of, ooh, I want to see what happens next. Ooh, I want to see what happens next. Ooh, I want to know how they're going to resolve this. Not knowing what happens next keeps you hooked on wanting to know what happens next. And The Mutants did a really good job of that. Even at 6 parts to where I'd hit a cliffhanger and I'd want to watch the next episode. Now, I didn't watch it all in one sitting. I did take breaks in between. But it did a good job of wanting me to continue watching the story and keeping me engaged. I remember at the end of part 3, I was like, wow, it feels like it only needs one more part to wrap this up. How are they going to make it extend to 6 parts? And it did a good job with it. Part of that is due to the story is fine. I enjoy the story. Part of it is due to I love the social commentary on racism, classism, and elitism. I enjoy that. Part of it is due to the guest cast being so well done. You have the guy who played Biggs in Star Wars there. He's good. I really like the guy, the heavier set guy that is playing the main antagonist of the story with his little walkie-talkie thing. I like him. He's really well cast in that role. And they even have Jeffrey in the first episode. I like him a lot. He's also in Voyage of the Damned. He's also in Doctor Who and the Silurians. I like him, so we get him a little bit. And of course, the main cast is doing well too with Joe and the Doctor. So it's executed pretty well. Plus, I love the mutant costumes. I feel like the mutant costumes are done really well. Some of the special effects are a little naffed. It really is the story of Season 9 that could have used updated effects. If they didn't give it to Time Monster, they needed to give it to the mutants. So it's a shame we didn't get any updated effects for Season 9. Probably because so much went into the restoration work, with over half of this season not being the original PAL Masters. And I think that was the right call. You definitely want to get those non-PAL Master stories looking as good as possible. But I still wish they did some updated effects for the mutants. Other than that, good story. Next on the list is probably the Sea Devils, which I think is good. I think it's a little overrated. I'm not quite as fond of it as Paul is. I know Paul really likes that story. One of my fellow YouTube buddies. I know he really likes the Sea Devils a lot. It's good. I prefer the ending of Silurians because I just feel like that hits better. But I feel like Sea Devils overall is better paced, and it does a good job of bringing Delgado into the story, bringing the Master back, and showing just how manipulative he can be. Plus, I love the Sea Devil design a lot. Plus, it has one of the most iconic uses of the sonic screwdriver when the Doctor is detonating the mines. I absolutely love that scene. It's a really good story. And I love the fact that they actually got the British Royal Navy involved in the story as well. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, number one on the list is Day of the Daleks, the one true, like, just masterpiece, amazing story of the season for me. I love this story. I've raved about it many times. I'm not really going to go on about it here, but most of you know I love Day of the Daleks. I think it's a great story, especially for the time it was written. I love, you know, people coming back in time to prevent the future accidentally causing the future. I love that concept. We see that in stuff like the Terminator and other parts of sci-fi. Days of Futures Past deals with stuff like that. So I absolutely love how well it's executed here. And I like all three versions of it. The original version, the omnibus version, and the special edition, with, of course, the special edition being my favorite. That I feel like the special edition really does execute the story the way it was originally envisioned to be done. So I like that. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal Dalek story. So that's how I would rank Season 9. I don't think I ranked Season 10 in that video either, even though I meant to. So I'm going to go ahead and rank Season 10 as well for how I currently find it. At the bottom of the list is Planet of the Daleks. I just don't get into Planet of the Daleks. I don't. I've talked about that before. It just doesn't do as much for me, and it's one of the rare occasions where I prefer the original version over the updated effects. The updated effects just look really jarring. In some scenes, some of the updated effects look really nice, but a lot of them look really jarring. So I just watched the original version. I feel like Planet of the Daleks is just too much of a retread of the Daleks. I mean, if you want to watch that story, just go watch the Daleks. Next on the list for me is probably Frontier in Space. I like Frontier in Space, but it doesn't exactly blow me away. It's great to have Delgado back one last time. I wish he had a better final scene. It's not really his fault that the final scene is the way it is. It's not their fault. It's nobody's fault. Nobody knew Delgado was going to pass away tragically. But I wish there was just a little more substance there in his final scene. But it's a fun story, even if it is a lot of getting captured, getting free, getting captured, getting free. I like the Draconians' makeup. I like having the Ogrons back. And I love a third party pitting two people against each other. I enjoy the story. It's a little long-winded with too abrupt of an ending. It does have a very abrupt ending since it has to tie in with Planet, which I'm a little on. But other than that, it's a pretty good story. Next on the list is The Green Death, which is an amazing story, essential Doctor Who, tad overrated slightly, while having a great companion departure. What happens with Yates is a bit tragic with him getting brainwashed, which could lead to events that we see in Invasion of the Dinosaurs. I do think there's definitely a link between those two things. I also really enjoy some of the actors in it. The guy playing Stevens, the guy voicing the boss. I can't remember who voices the boss because I know he does other stuff in Doctor Who, but it's really good voice work. The guy playing one of the other guys who works there with the mustache and the glasses that disappears like halfway through the story, he's really good. I believe the actor had appendicitis is why he's not in the rest of the story. But he's really good. And the companion departure is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And of course, Stuart Bevan is great as Cliff Jones. It's a good story. Also, the effects of the maggots look really good, really impressive. And I think one of the reasons the story is so memorable, even if the adult flying version of it looks a bit naff, let's be honest. Number 2 on the list is Carnival of Monsters, Robert Holmes. This is one of the most underappreciated Robert Holmes stories because it really is just as good as a lot of his others like Caves of Androzani. It just hits, it's tight, it's well-paced, it's a good 4-parter. It's got great dialogue. It's nice to see Ian Marter showing up in the show here, even if he's playing a different character. I enjoy the guest cast a lot. I love the fact that the kind of blue-gray aliens have their own slight manner of speak that's different than ours. This one has twinges, or whatever he says. One has twinges. I like the slight difference there in their manner of speak, kind of like I do with the Canes in Paradise Towers. I like little things like that. And then I love the dressings. I love the creatures in concept, like how they're created in concept, and I love their actual design, the creation of them. The effects for them are actually done pretty well. And the sounds they make, those are pretty cool sounds. It's a really solid story that I feel like is underappreciated. And one story that casual Doctor Who fans, especially people that only hit the cliff notes of classic Doctor Who, will overlook, sadly. And then number 1 on the list for me is The Three Doctors. I love The Three Doctors. It is my favorite multi-Doctor story. I just think it's so much fun. It's not perfect. It is a bit naffed sometimes with the effects in places. Some of the effects look really good, like that little energy thing that's trying to send stuff to the antimatter dimension. It looks pretty cool. But like just things appearing and disappearing with a simple blinking in and out doesn't quite do as much for me. I get that's what they could do at the time, but it doesn't do as much for me. And then Omega's assistants look weird with the little crab arm, and they just look a little naff to me. But I love the story. I love having Troughton back. I love that we get Hartnell back one last time. And considering Hartnell's health and the situation they had to do with the cue cards and recording his stuff ahead of time, he nails it. He absolutely nails it. He puts in such a good performance. With all of that going on, he still delivers a solid performance. I know I'm watching the First Doctor. Even at his health, he is putting in a better First Doctor performance than David Bradley has ever done. And there's nothing against David Bradley. His First Doctor just doesn't feel like Hartnell's First Doctor for me. And I still feel like Hartnell's nailing it even harder, even better here, despite his health. And of course, I love the way the second and third Doctors get along, or don't get along. I love the arguments between them. Pertwee and Troughton just bounce off each other so well. I absolutely love that. It's adorable. And I love just knowing that Troughton liked to ad-lib drove John crazy. John has a bit he did at a convention. I think I've posted that video on here before where he was talking one time about Troughton, and Troughton gives off some lines, and John's like, "What the heck was that?" And Troughton's like, "That was your cue." And John's like, "No, that was not my cue." And Troughton's like, "Wow, close enough." I love that. That scene when Troughton first shows up in the TARDIS is one of my favorite scenes in all of Doctor Who. I love that. Do you mind if I talk to her for a minute? Well, yes, I know. I didn't think you would. And we are all together, cuckoo, cuckoo. What? It's a song by the Beatles. Oh, how's it go? Just gold. That script is just gold for me. And I like Omega. I like that he's so over the top in this with that booming voice, that egotistical voice. It fits with his character. The only reason he even still exists is because his will insists he exists. So it fits for him to have that booming Stephen Thorne voice that he does here, which works really well for this story. I'm glad they toned it down in Arc of Infinity to keep his identity hidden longer, but it works really well for the Three Doctors. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite Troughton stories. One of my favorite Pertwee stories, even though I love it as Troughton in it. And my favorite multi-Doctor story thus far. So that is how I would rank Season 9 and Season 10, since I forgot to do those in their respective videos. So I just wanted to get those out of the way. How would you rank Season 9 and Season 10 of classic Doctor Who? Comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button, the subscribe button, and all the other fun stuff that's down in the description of the video. Links to the Patreon, links to the Amazon wish list, links to the Amazon UK wish list, all that fun stuff. I do want to give a shout out to Colin Coney, one of my top tier patrons. I appreciate his support, as I do the support of all of my patrons and YouTube members. Most importantly, thank you for watching.